Alright, so this game is a game that I have played, and I just wanted to go back through this game to see how many opportunities I missed. So if you are a good player, have a look and tell me. So I'm playing, as you can see, this game started off with e4, he responded c3, so he's trying to play a Sicilian, which, to be fair, I'm not very good at. I understand I need to be very strong at this. So as you can see, he's rated a bit higher than me. So I'm continuing with the development. Knight f3, he plays classic, knight c6. So normally here, the recommendation is that you do play d4, but as I said, I'm not very strong on the Sicilian. So what I did, I played c3, and because I'm preparing to play something like maybe d4 later, with hoping to maintain a pawn center here. That's the way I'm thinking, that's the way I'm planning the game, because I like to maintain that strong pawn center. So he is now preparing maybe to launch out in the center, so he plays e3. So then maybe play d5 next, which I don't know. I don't know the plan. I'm just thinking that's maybe what it's like. So I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to strengthen this pawn with the intention of maybe retreating this bishop into like this hole here, right inside of c2, with the potential to launch an attack later. So that's the way I'm thinking about the game. It's an unusual play, but I kind of have a plan for the position. So also I wanted to develop, but I didn't want to put my bishop somewhere where it was easily attacked. And I didn't want to block the defense of this pawn in the center. So I thought the best thing to do was just defend it, and then later retreat into a nice defensive position. So I castled. I'm thinking, okay, I get the castle. And then he plays this odd move. I think it's an intention of just creating some space, maybe create some diversion. And to be honest, I wasn't sure what to do. I thought about playing this, but then it would just wreck my defense in some ways. It would just open possibly for another pawn attack here eventually, and then I just have literally just hoping that I survive. So I thought the best thing to do here was just ignore it, which maybe was a bad idea, I don't know. So I just carried on. I supported the pawn in the center. Kind of like, I'm not even sure, but I suspect the fact that he had played his pawn here, I expected at some point where he was going to put his bishop onto b7, and so I wanted to make sure that I reduced the thoughts on that as much as possible, at least delay that play or delay that plan. So he pushed further, and here I'm like, what to do? To be honest, that pawn there now becomes a little bit vulnerable because it's so far away, and it's hard to get another pawn to defend it without creating some problems. Maybe he could push that pawn, but what I did, I quickly just said, you know what, let's put a halt to this pawn. I didn't want it to get too far down into my defense. And then let's see what he does. So I think he had a plan of pushing his pawn, but then he was thinking, not sure where I'm going to castle, because he might have thought about pushing this, but he didn't. So he carried on. I kind of thought that was what he was going to do. So I retreated my bishop with the intention of either protecting the pawn or striking out in the center, because I had ample support. I had this pawn, I had my knight, and I had my queen providing support. And if he does take, then I'll have this handy pawn center here. So he continued his development, protecting the pawn. I think here, I don't know, maybe he was going to push this pawn eventually, and he wanted to make sure that there was nothing happening to beating that pawn. So I carried on my defense, my attack, well, just striking out in the center. I needed to get my bishop in the game anyway. I needed to create an option for it. Didn't think this was strong enough. So I thought, either protecting or not, and I thought I'm playing white, so fire away. So he takes, and I took the exchange. So now I have a nice center, I have some space, my bishop is active, and my knight is maybe my only inactive piece, and my rook. So I'm thinking soon I'm going to get these into the game. Now, he can't take because my knight will take back. I'm thinking, what is he up to? So he strikes out like this, and he said, okay, I'm going to just create some problems for myself. So I thought, where do I put my knight? I'm definitely blocking with knight. If I go here, I'm restricting my bishop. That's the way I'm thinking. It does provide an additional defense on this. But then I thought, maybe if I go here, I'm developing the knight with some pressure on the center in case he tries to strike in the center here. And if he pushes, then I have a nice push with support. And if he takes, then I'll get an additional pawn to support the center here. So in the end I went, okay, block with knight. He developed, and I think that was a blunder in some ways, because it gave me the option here of developing my bishop with a nice bit of tempo on it and possibly winning a pawn. So I went, boom, bishop. And here I'm pinning the knight, but I'm doing something else. I'm attacking this pawn with my bishop and my knight. And he only has one defense. He can't move the knight to even provide a defense here, because then he would lose his queen. Not a fair exchange. I mean, people do that. But that would have to be something that he had a plan, maybe knight here and then sack and get something done. So that was a blunder, which I quickly spotted. I mean, it just fit nicely in my development anyway. So he got his knight, got his queen out of the way, hoping that if I don't take now, then he will just bring that support. At this time, I was thinking maybe knight here to attack the queen to see what the queen was up to. But I don't know, I wouldn't have done anything. I thought it was just going to be a wasted play. I would then have to defend my bishop, my rook, and all that. Thought maybe later. So I take. Bishop takes. Could have taken with knight, but I thought better to take with bishop because I can retreat the bishop to here, pressuring the queen. So he attacked, which is kind of like what I expected. And I simply just played into tempo here. So here I'm attacking his queen. Nice as a diagonal here. It's not very strong, but it's a nice place to be with a bishop. At this point, I'd say my bishop is doing better. Both my bishops are doing better than his bishops, but they're not bad. This one is a bit hanging. Potentially it could be lost. So I'm looking at the game and I'm thinking, where am I going to do an attack? So he retreats. This is quite easy for me. I just quickly pushed the pawn. I thought that was the best thing to do here. Just titled the play. And he ended up back with his bishop where he started. So now I'm thinking, what do I do? The position is fairly passive for him. But for me, there's a lot of things I could do. One, I could take the knight. And when he takes back, then I could attack the pawn, creating lots of problem, maybe forcing him to bring his bishop, rook here, and I'm thinking I could then bring my bishop here, attack the rook, and I maybe would be able to get the pawn for free with an attack on his king. But I was thinking about it and saying, if I do manage that sequence and it goes exactly as that, you would have an escape square here, and then it would just be like giving him somewhere to run to. So I thought, what if I attack his queen? Where would he go? So I take it first to make sure that the option exists. He takes. I then didn't want to force a check yet, so I attack his queen. And the reason why I did this at this point rather than attacking, because this is not tempo move so much. He can let me take it and just move his king out of the way, and then I wouldn't get much out of it. So I thought if I attack the queen first, he can't go here. He could go here, but the problem is it's just boxing this, boxing the rook in the corner. He maybe would go here, but it would just be restricting his bishop really. He could then play it here and attack the knight, that kind of stuff. But I think here would still restrict the rook too much. And there's an open file here that at some point I think he might want to put his rook here. So he went to double up some protection on the bishop to stop any form of advance that I maybe want to take along this, maybe eventually here to here with my rook. maybe bring my bishop, my queen in and something. So I think that's maybe the best thing for him to do. But what it did was restrict his king movement. So his king is now stuck to this side. And that's kind of like part of the plan. I also have a nice little check here, which if I could get this out the way, I could potentially win a bishop here. So I'm thinking maybe I could do something like that. So I could really bring my knight here with the intention of check. So then there's no castling for him. A nice move. So if I play this here, he takes, and I could check. Then he would just be going here. But I'm thinking, oh, what would I get from that? Yeah, I get a bishop, I'll come back, then tie the queen, then come back. Then maybe I'd have something nice going on these light squares. If I could get my queen somewhere near, then boom, I could win. So that's my thinking. Anyway, so the game continued. Now I carried on with the plan. He went, defended, which is what I expected. He could have defended with rook, with king, but I think I was thinking it's better to go with rook. Maybe a blunder in this case, because I went, let's attack. But he had a nice little move here, which is this. And that's when I decided, attacking my bishop. Interesting. What do I do? So I had a few ideas. And notice if I take, there's a nice thing going on here. If I could get my bishop here, then I'd have two things. I'd have a skewer, or at least a fork on the queen on that. But the problem is, he's doing it. So I'm thinking, how could I get rid of that? I also like this square a lot. I don't want to retreat. I could retreat and then play the game later. And then see if I could fight. Maybe push pawn, threaten this pawn, and then maybe win it and get back to where we were, because he couldn't take the knight. So I was thinking quite a few things, you know. But then I said, you know what, let's go on the attack. So I went check. And the idea behind this, if he leaves it, he loses this. So even if he can't do anything, he has to do something about it. So if he moves, then what happens is that I could take, get a tempo on his queen, and come back to this position. If his queen moves, then I automatically could take this pawn, and then I'd be up again with a pawn, possibly if he takes back the knight. So it was a tricky one for him, so he decided to do that, which is to take my bishop. So I went in with the original plan, because I'm trying to reduce the side as much as possible in terms of defense. Queen, he blocks, so I take that, and now I'm technically down the exchange. Yeah, I'm down the exchange, yes. Oh, he's down the exchange. I'm down a piece. In some ways, I'm down a piece, but I'm up by a rook. So I carry on with the attack. I have no choice. He gets here. I'm thinking, what do I do? So I take the pawn, check. He doesn't have much options here. And then I'm thinking, what do I do next? So I said, you know what, I'll need more attack anyway, and I need to do this quickly before he moves his knight. Because if he moves his knight, then I can't get my rook here. And I see that's a free check, because there's nothing stopping this check. It's impossible to stop. So he attacks my queen. I'm thinking, flipping, what am I going to do now? And that's when I started thinking, how do I attack this? So I went rook, check. There's only one square for him at this point. Otherwise, if he takes with bishop, it doesn't make sense, because that's just checkmate. So he's going to try and escape into f7. It's kind of weird that a king is running back into f7. But that's kind of like what's happening here. So if he gets there, I'm thinking I can check him in two ways. I could check him with my queen, but I thought I'll need as much firepower as possible to get this done. I recognize that there is no escape, that this pawn is doing handy work here. So there's really no escape. It's just a matter of finding where to checkmate him. So I'm thinking, okay, knight check. Now, the thing is, knight check is very powerful. There's only one square available for him. Well, two squares. And both of them are quite weak squares. Going here, not very good, because I can bring my queen into this spot, because he would have blocked off the queen and then check me. So here it's actually a forced mate. Only two squares, each of the squares equally as weak. So he went backwards into his starting position, queen check, then he comes back up into e7 and checkmate. So that's a nice little attack that I did. I'm quite interested in how that worked out. There's a few blunders here. I think when he moved his bishop to Before, it was a kind of blunder. I think he forgot what the bishop was doing and brought his knight into that space. But I think he